You know how everyone's talking about manifestation these days? It's like, if you just, want something badly enough, it'll just magically appear.
Right.
So you wanted to know if there's any real power to it, or if it's just wishful thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this article we're doing a deep dive into today.
Okay.
It's called, Yes, Manifestation is Magical, and That's Why It Works, by Katie Lee. And it argues that it's actually both. It says manifestation works because it's both magical and scientific, but maybe not in the way we usually think.
Interesting.
I have to admit, after reading this, I'm starting to see things a bit differently.
Yeah, what's fascinating about this article is that it doesn't shy away from that word magic.
Right.
It actually leans into it.
Okay.
Suggesting that maybe science and magic aren't so different after all.
Okay, I'll be honest. When I hear magic, I'm picturing,
Right.
pulling a rabbit out of a hat.
Right.
Not exactly something I'd, base my life goals on.
Exactly, and the article gets that. It points out that even the concept of magic has gotten a bit lost in translation over time. It actually quotes Aleister Crowley, who defined magic as creating change in accordance with one's will.
Huh.
So less about incantations, more about focused intention and action.
Which, when you put it like that, sounds a lot like setting goals.
Yes.
And, taking steps to achieve them. And that's where the whole science part comes in, right?
Exactly.
Like how our brains are wired to notice things we focus on.
Exactly. The article talks about the reticular activating system.
Oh, right.
Or the RAS.
Yeah.
You know how when you buy a new car,
yes.
you suddenly see that same car everywhere?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Or in this case, it was the yellow overalls example from the article. Once you read about them, you start seeing them everywhere.
Exactly. That's your RAS kicking in. It's like your brain's filter
Right.
constantly scanning for information that aligns with what you're already thinking about.
Wow.
So if you're constantly focusing on your goals, your RAS is primed to spot opportunities and resources that you might have otherwise missed.
That makes a lot of sense.
Uh-huh.
But here's where the article takes a turn I wasn't expecting. It says that this whole focusing on the positive thing, which the article calls coagula, or creation, is only half the equation. And apparently that's where most people trying to manifest things go wrong.
It's like trying to build a house on sand.
Ooh.
You can visualize that dream home, you can lay the first few bricks, but without a strong foundation, it's not going to last.
So what's the missing foundation piece here? What makes manifestation actually stick?
The article calls it the solve. Essentially, dissolving the limiting beliefs and patterns that created the reality you're trying to change in the first place.
So it's not enough to just want a better job. You have to address the deeper reasons why you haven't gotten there yet. Like maybe a fear of failure is holding you back, or maybe you're subconsciously drawn to jobs that aren't a good fit
Right.
because they fulfill some other need.
Exactly. The article gives some pretty relatable examples, like someone manifesting a successful business, but then quickly getting bored with it. Or someone attracting a partner who ticks all the boxes on paper, but turns out to have some major red flags.
It's like you're just repeating the same patterns, even with your manifestations, unless you get to the root of what's driving those patterns. So how do we actually do that? How do we uncover these hidden beliefs and patterns that are holding us back?
Well, the article dives into a few techniques for uncovering those hidden patterns, and they're all about bringing, more awareness to what's going on beneath the surface. One of them is called the Sedona method.
Okay, I've heard of that one, but to be honest, I don't really know what it is.
It's actually a pretty simple technique, but powerful, for releasing painful or unwanted emotions quickly.
Okay.
The article kind of describes it as a sort of pressure cooker release valve for your feelings.
So instead of trying to ignore those negative emotions, you're actually like leaning into them.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging and allowing those feelings to move through you rather than trying to bottle them up or push them away, which can actually make them even stronger.
Right.
The article even outlines the steps involved, so it's something you can, try out for yourself.
That's really cool. And this might sound kind of out there, but what about EFT tapping? I remember seeing something about that in the article, and it definitely piques my curiosity.
EFT tapping.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might sound a little strange at first, but there's actually a growing body of research supporting EFT, or emotional freedom technique.
Okay.
The article describes it as acupressure for your emotions. Basically, you're tapping on specific energy points on your body while focusing on the issue you want to address.
So you're kind of like giving your emotional system a bit of a reset button.
That's a great way to put it. Wow.
It's like how rebooting your computer can sometimes clear out those pesky glitches.
Right.
And the article suggests that EFT can be surprisingly effective. for dealing with things like anxiety, stress, even past traumas.
I'm definitely intrigued. Okay, and then there was one more technique that I remember really standing out. Shadow work, what's that all about?
Shadow work. Yeah, so shadow work is all about shining a light on the parts of ourselves that we tend to keep hidden.
Okay.
The fears, insecurities, and limiting beliefs that we often try to ignore or suppress.
That sounds kind of intense. Is it about, like, being super negative and focusing on everything bad about yourself?
Not at all. It's actually about approaching those shadow parts with curiosity and compassion.
Okay.
The article phrases it as getting curious about the hidden benefits of our problems, which I thought was so interesting. Yeah, the article had some really thought-provoking questions for that, like, what do we get out of staying stuck in this pattern? Or what's the not-so-wholesome benefit of actually achieving this goal? It's like reverse psychology for your subconscious.
Exactly. Sometimes those shadow parts are holding on to certain beliefs or behaviors because they think they're protecting us in some way,
Right.
even if it's not serving us in the long run. And shadow work is about understanding those motivations and then gently shifting them.
This is all starting to make so much sense. And you know what really drove it home for me? The money tree analogy from the article.
Ah, yes, the belief that money doesn't grow on trees.
Right.
It's such a common saying. But it really highlights how deeply ingrained some of our limiting beliefs can be.
Right. And because we've heard that saying our whole lives, we often approach money with this scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Like it's something that needs to be fought for and earned through sheer force of will.
And that scarcity mindset can actually block us from attracting more abundance.
Oh, wow.
So the solve in this case would be to challenge that limiting belief. Maybe money can flow into our lives with more ease and joy if we shift our perspective and start believing it's possible.
I love that. And it's not just about money, of course. It applies to every area of our lives, right?
Exactly.
Our beliefs about relationships, our careers, our health, they all shape our reality in powerful ways.
Exactly. The article emphasizes that manifestation isn't about forcing things to happen, but about aligning ourselves with the outcomes we desire. And that alignment starts with addressing those deep-seated beliefs that might be holding us back.
It's like we're so focused on the end goal, the money, the relationship, the dream job, that we forget about the journey of getting there.
Yeah.
And maybe, like the article suggests, that journey of self-discovery and growth is just as important as the destination.
Absolutely. And, you know, the article talks about how we often miss the power of those small, consistent steps.
Right.
You know, it's like planting a seed. You don't see the results overnight. But with consistent nurturing, that tiny seed can grow into something magnificent.
I love that analogy. It reminds me of that quote, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step."
Right.
It's those small daily actions, those little shifts in our mindset and behavior that ultimately create lasting change.
Precisely. And that brings us back to the bigger picture of manifestation, what it really means to make your own fate, as the article puts it.
I have to say, that phrase always felt a bit intimidating to me. Like, am I really in control of my destiny? Or is it all just, predetermined?
Right. Well, the article actually addresses that. It talks about this Basque word for witch Sorjanak, which means one who makes her own fate. And I don't know about you, but I find that incredibly empowering.
Definitely more empowering than spooky.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like we all have this inner Sorjanak, this capacity to shape our own realities through our choices and actions.
Exactly. And it's not about denying the existence of challenges or setbacks.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we have agency within those circumstances.
Okay.
We can choose how we respond, how we learn, and how we move forward.
So maybe it's not just about getting the thing we want, but about who we become in the process of pursuing it. It's like that personal growth and transformation are an integral part of the manifestation process itself.
Beautifully said. It's about becoming the kind of person who can not only attract what we desire, but also create and sustain it in a way that feels aligned and fulfilling.
So it's not about magic wands and spells after all. It's about the magic within us, the magic of self-awareness, of taking responsibility for our thoughts and beliefs, and of taking those small, consistent actions that add up to big, beautiful change.
Well, exactly. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most magical thing of all.
It certainly gives you a lot to think about. I hope this deep dive has helped you understand the real magic and science of manifestation. And remember, it's not about wishing for things to be different, but about becoming the kind of person who can create that difference. What will you manifest today?